Welcome to another Week 12 already. Hard to believe. Edition of the Bark Tank, everybody, presented by Sugardale. My name is Andrew Siciliano, back inside the home studio today with a quick turnaround coming up with the Steelers at home at Huntington Bank Field. Thursday night football, maybe even in the rain, coming up in a matter of days. We are back here after the Browns lose to the Saints 35-14. Coming up shortly, we will look at that Steelers game with a good friend who was on the call, actually, on Sunday in Pittsburgh. NFL Network legend, the great Brian Baldinger, will be here coming up shortly. This, of course, again, after a disappointing day in New Orleans. I'll be honest, well, I'm always honest, did not think that we'd be sitting here 2-8. Also didn't think that when the Browns went to the fourth quarter in New Orleans on Sunday, tied at 14, you're tied at 14 with 15 minutes to go, that it was going to be a 21-point fourth quarter for the Saints. I just did not see that. Browns actually made a play defensively right out of the gate there. First play, if I recall correctly, of the fourth quarter. And then you're like, all right, got this. Except you didn't. Taysom Hill had an amazing day. Tip of the cap to him. A unique player, to put it nicely. One of the, I don't want to say most unique, that's bad English, but there aren't many like him. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns. The guy's hard to tackle. He looked like a Hall of Famer on Sunday, let's put it that way. And Taysom Hill and the Saints pulled away late. There's a lot to like from the Browns' performance offensively. Certainly big picture, though, you walk out of there with a loss, and it's a dispiriting loss because this was a winnable game in the fourth quarter, because you gave up a big return on special teams as well, though Corey Bojorquez did get a hand on Dante Pettis, got him out of bounds to the 35-yard line, but then you couldn't defend those 35 yards after that, and Taysom Hill got in the end zone again. It was a dispiriting loss because Denzel Ward played a phenomenal game. He finally had a pick. The secondary finally had a pick. He had a forced fumble. He recovered that forced fumble. He's all over the field. He did a heck of a job. A dispiriting game because Jordan Hicks came back. Much needed boost to the Browns linebacking core. He played every snap. He didn't come off the field. He played well. Browns still had trouble stopping the run there, at least stopping the explosives. Dispiriting loss because you had guys stand out like Jameis Winston and Jerry Jeudy, and you couldn't get that win. Let's give some flowers to Jameis. He threw for 395. He didn't turn the ball over. He threw 2 touchdowns. He came up with 2 long touchdowns, an 89-yarder to Jerry Jeudy and the 30-yarder where he was on the run, stayed behind the line of scrimmage, out of the pocket, threw a dart to the back corner, and Elijah Moore got his feet down. Heck of a catch. Controlled the ball on the way down. And good job, Matt Starkey, in great position. Browns team photographer right there in the back of the end zone to get the shot. And he was on camera, and he looked good doing it. But Elijah Moore involved in the passing game. David Njoku had 9 more catches. Keeps his streak alive of games with 5 receptions. All those good things, and you still come out of there with a loss. Again, let's talk about Jameis. So Jameis, you guys know, had been there for 4 years in New Orleans. He started 10 games for the Saints over the years. It was kind of a roller coaster. He was the starter after Drew Brees, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, and then Andy Dalton got the job. It didn't go, in the end, how he wanted. But Jameis Winston is beloved in that town. You hear so much about the Browns locker room, or from the Browns locker room, talking about Jameis and his energy and his authenticity and his positive attitude. And you've seen his pregame speeches. He had another one of them Sunday saying, let's go kick some booty. We all laughed. It was good. He called it a transformational Sunday. That is real. And to see the reaction in New Orleans, it blew my mind. So we get off the bus at the Caesars, as it's now called, Superdome in New Orleans 3 hours before kick yesterday. We get off the bus, and we're waiting in line at security, back of the stadium, underneath. You're coming up the ramp there, and to the right, all the workers at the stadium, guys on the dock, right? Receiving, trucks coming in, guys on the dock, and people are screaming Jameis's name. Someone's got a phone out there, like FaceTiming with family. Oh my God, it's Jameis. Jameis, very polite, very happy to see everybody, waves. Like, guys holding up his phone, like waving to random people on FaceTime. We then get in, we go through security, and if you check out Brown's Instagram, you saw and you heard this. There were cheers in the tunnel for Jameis Winston. He's just a guy with his suitcase walking from security to the Browns locker room. And there was a railing set up, a gate basically, inside and under the stadium where there were 25 to 30 stadium workers who were cheering Jameis Winston, cheering him as he returned to New Orleans. It put a big smile on his face. I think it helped him play a good game. It was heartening to see somebody coming back to a place where he impacted so many people and where he was so beloved. It was kind of cool. And then if you go to Twitter today and you can see how many Saints players came up and congratulated him after the game for his good game, and not just like the quick, hey, hug it out real quick, but we're talking long embraces where it's just genuine affection. That was pretty cool. And Jameis played a great game, and I'm happy for him. 395 and 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. If you had told me that those were the numbers and the Browns would lose, I would punch you in the face and say, no way. Just, it can't happen. Jerry Jeudy, also a phenomenal game. That 89-yard touchdown. This was Jerry Jeudy's breakout performance. He has had good games, obviously, but this was the good game. That 89-yard touchdown is the 4th longest in Browns history. It is the 4th longest pass play in Browns history. Can you name the others? Anybody? You remember the Jeff Garcia to Andre Davis? Not the linebacker Andre Davis, the Virginia Tech wide receiver Andre Davis. Remember that one? That went 99 yards. Bernie to Webster Slaughter against the Bears. If I recall correctly, I think that was a Monday night at the stadium. That was back in 89. That went 97 yards. There was the Brandon Weeden, Josh Gordon 95-yarder against the Jaguars. Jameis, yesterday, 89 yards, a one-play drive. And Baker to OBJ back in 19, so Baker's second season, that one went 89. Jerry Jeudy, fantastic game. And for Jameis, it was the longest pass play of his career. That 395, if you're looking at most passing yards by a Brown in any game, it's 7th all-time. Josh McCown holds the regular season record with that 457, I think, against the Ravens. The Browns' regular and postseason record belongs to Bernie with the 489 against the Jets in the amazing Mark Mosley game-winning double overtime game back in the day in the 86 playoffs. And that was until Tom Brady threw for 500 in the 28-3 Super Bowl comeback. That was, and that record stood for like 30 years, if not more. I'm bad at math. The NFL postseason passing record, single season. Anyway, so congratulations to all those guys. They played great games, but in the end, the Browns lose, and now they have to get ready for the Steelers. Brian Baldinger is going to come up in a couple of minutes. My former colleague at NFL Network will get his thoughts on the Steelers. He called that game on the radio on Sunday. I want to say one last quick thing, though, about DeJuan Jones. It is heartbreaking that his season is over, and that is confirmed. It is a broken ankle. Kevin Stefanski said it after the game on Sunday, and they came back to Cleveland. Everything is as was feared. It is the broken ankle. DeJuan was in his 3rd game playing left tackle. Obviously played very well at right tackle last year. All-rookie team, and he got plenty of, obviously, love this past season. I think he was coming into his own at left tackle. What's disappointing, obviously disappointing for him, the human, also disappointing from the organizational standpoint that you can't get to see him develop more this year down the stretch. Same goes for Mike Hall, who the Browns lost to a knee injury. Maybe not for the season, but at least for the next month. He's on IR. That happened late in practice last week. But you just feel for DeJuan because this season has been a bit of a struggle coming back from the knee injury last season and trying to get back to form and having some success at left tackle. Joe Bitonio spoke last week about how they were getting good chemistry on the left side as they learned to work together. And broken ankle. To see the emotion on his face. Freak play. Wyatt Teller got pushed back into him, rolled him up, and you knew when you saw the replay. It was one of those replays that you see once, and that's it. Don't need to see it again. DeJuan Jones carted the locker room, and his season is over. The recovery begins shortly after he has that surgery on the broken ankle. But the future is bright, certainly for DeJuan, whether it's at left tackle or at right tackle, however they plan to use him moving forward. You know that he is a cornerstone, you would have to think, the way he has played when getting healthy this year. Just have to figure out where on that offensive line he is going to be. Don't know. So week 11 is done. Let's turn our focus to week 12. Guest time now on this episode of the Bark Tank. It is always a pleasure. I call this man the world's most interesting former offensive lineman. It was my pleasure, not his, my pleasure to work alongside him for 13 years at NFL Network, and he just saw this week's opponent up close. He called the Steelers and Ravens. Steelers win in Pittsburgh over the Ravens on Compass Radio this past Sunday. The great Brian Baldinger in the Bark Tank. How are you, sir?
Andrew, I'm good. Anytime I'm from Pittsburgh. I was born in Pittsburgh, so I just was a Steeler fan, my whole life. Grew up watching Bradshaw and Hanratty, just Franco and all the guys, So, I get a chance to go back to Pittsburgh. It's always good. But honestly, those just like all the fans really in the AFC North. It's just a incredible fan base. They have a really good team. I'd say the one thing about the team right now, Andrew, opposed to a lot of teams in this league, is they're very healthy. Like you look across their defense front, they picked up Preston Smith. Highsmith didn't play yesterday, but Herbig did. He made a huge play in the second play of the game. They've got depth at linebacker, depth at corner. Mink is back there guarding, making sure nothing gets deep or big. On the offense line, they start rookies, but they don't look like rookies. And, they've got running back. They just got depth, and this time of the year, you see all these teams, losing players, playing practice squad players. The Steelers are healthy. And, I think they're just getting stronger here as the season goes on.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin said today that it does not look like Highsmith is going to be back this week. Short week, quick turnaround here for TNF. But as you said, Herbig was great. Great right out of the gate, forcing the fumble. Great in coverage as well down the sideline. They haven't missed a beat without him.
No, they haven't. And, Herbig is – they just hit on their draft picks, Andrew. I know Nick a long time. He used to work out at the barn with Sam Malo and Lane Johnson, all these guys. And I got to know him when he was at Wisconsin. But honestly – I know you know this, Andrew, but just for the audience out there, you get these linebackers from Wisconsin, whether it's TJ or Andrew Van Ginkel or Zach Bond or Nick Herbig, they cross-train these guys so good in Madison that they come to the league, they know how to rush, they know how to cover, they know how to turn the corner. They know how to blitz. They're just very skilled group. And Herbig was a 4th-round pick. This one thing I know, the Steelers know what a linebacker looks like. So whether it's Peyton Wilson this year in the 3rd round or picking up Preston Smith, they're giddy about Preston Smith, Andrew. He's 275 pounds. He can set an edge. He can drop into coverage. He can get to the quarterback. They feel like they just added great depth to a position that they really value.
Yeah, the Peyton Wilson thing, NC State, Russell Wilson, Peyton Wilson. Russell said he, reminded him of the NC State greatness after the game. The big thing with him, we had him at the Senior Bowl, was just injuries coming up. The guy couldn't stay healthy. Played like 9 years. I'm only half kidding. At NC State, former lacrosse player. The guy could play. He just can't stay healthy. And if he stays healthy, the Steelers have a fine there as well. Talking to Brian Baldinger, who called the game. Baldinger, I'm looking for a weakness here. Red zone, maybe, offensively now, with Russell Wilson had the pick yesterday, not as efficient as they could be. Where do you see a weakness?
I would say, I think all teams, until they, they score inside the 10, a number of times in a row, teams have weaknesses. But, Russell, the one thing I'd say about Russell, I'd say he's, just talking a little bit with, the new offensive coordinator, and just listening to some of the things that he has to say. Russell wants to play till he's 40, and whether he can or not, he knows he's got to stay healthy. So he's not taking the hits. He's getting rid of the football. He's throwing a lot more on timing. If he has to try to beat you from the pocket, he's still going to be a little challenged by just what he sees. He threw a floater to Darnell Washington in the end zone. It got over his head. Marlon Humphrey picked it off. Probably put a bow on that game if they'd scored at that point. But regardless, I would say that's probably a little bit of a problem. I mean, you could throw jump balls to, George Pickens. You probably can't go wrong trying to do that because he's so acrobatic. But it's generally a low percentage throw. And if you're in good position like Tre'Davious White was for Baltimore a couple of times, you're probably not going to score in that play.
Yeah, and I would have to think as well. Look, the Browns have given up some explosives the last couple of weeks. They've had way too many busted plays, busted coverages. Yep. That said, Denzel Ward played maybe his best game of the year in New Orleans. He had the pick, his first pick of the year, the secondary's first pick of the year. He forced a fumble. He recovered that forced fumble as well. I'm going to assume that the Denzel Ward-George Pickens matchup, all things aside, is worth the price of admission coming up on Thursday.
I think it's great. They've both been in the league, a while now, and George is really, since Russell took over, he's been a big part of the offense. He's, both of his touchdown catches are from Russell. He's made a number of, highlight type catches. The one thing that, Denzel's got to know is when that ball's in the air, like Pickens can adjust to the ball as well as anybody. And so, you don't want to get handsy. You don't want to get too aggressive. You got to play the ball in the air. And, and then just timing it. He's skilled at it. He's been the same height his whole life since Ohio State. So he knows what he can and cannot do. But his big catches generally come on the sideline. Even yesterday, he caught one on sort of a check down, but his ability to stay on his feet, to turn on Brandon Stevens, and to get up the sideline for 25 yards, he can either catch it on the sidelines acrobatically, or he catch it and then, he can just make people miss with the best of them, with just the suddenness and burst that he has.
A couple more minutes here with Brian Baldinger. For those who don't follow Baldy NFL on either Twitter for his breakdowns or Instagram for like some great pregame walk and talks and photos, you need to. Baldy was at our game in Philadelphia, and just the shot of you and JOK, who's obviously out, is on IR. He's not going to play this week. That's one of my favorite shots. It's also now Hard Knocks time, Baldy. The trucks are set up in Berea outside the Cross Country Mortgage campus, and I assume they were there Sunday in Pittsburgh. Do we have any pregame you and Russell on Hard Knocks coming up when that gets dropped?
I did say hello to Russell. I don't know if this can make Hard Knocks. I talked to Herbig and TJ Watt. I had a nice visit with Mike Tomlin yesterday. His son was down there, Joey Porter Sr. He always welcomes all the old heads, that obviously his son's out there, but he just loves when the ex-Steelers are around. So I had a nice little visit with him. Because, the one thing he said, and I'm sure he feels the same way about Cleveland, but he didn't sugarcoat this game against Baltimore. He said, this isn't just another game. This is the Ravens. We don't like each other. There was a number of, scuffles involving a lot of different players yesterday. A number of different players were one personal foul away from being ejected from the game. And that's just the way these games get played, the way the AFC North is. None of them particularly like one another. So they bring that physicality to the game. And, Tomlin didn't shy away from talking about that.
Yeah, and I assume it'll be a physical game coming up on Thursday. Short week, could be raining, could actually be like wet and cold and just kind of miserable. The Browns' record not good, 2-8, and this is one of the ones you circle and you say, yeah, but, and that is, yeah, but if you beat the Steelers here, it all kind of sort of feels different. I know, Baldy, from my perspective, what's disappointing here the second half of the season is there are young players who you wanted to see more from develop here on the back half of the schedule, but you can't. Mike Hall hurt his knee, and he's now on IR. That happened late in the week. Last week on Friday, he has made some plays, maybe not on the stat sheet, but he's getting in the backfield. He's making plays on special teams as well. And then yesterday, just the heartbreaking one. I'm a huge DeJuan Jones fan, and they moved him to the left side the last couple of weeks. I know you're a big Thanos fan as well. He broke his ankle. He's out for the year. And the development thing is what's frustrating because you saw him on the right side last year, played very well. I mean, you had some Baldy breakdowns on Monday morning where you pointed out how well he played. But now you can't see him at left tackle the second half of the year. Baldy, long-term, do you think he could be a left tackle?
Well, I mean, we've only seen him, like 3 weeks now, Andrew? Yeah. 3 or 4 weeks.
2.5.
So, yeah. I mean, I thought for sure he was a lockdown right tackle. I thought going up and seeing him against TJ and some of the guys he went against, I thought he was fine. I thought that's where he was. When I saw him at left tackle, he didn't look as comfortable. He looked a little heavier this year than he was last year. I don't know if he is or not. But
he's brought it down. He's brought it down since the beginning of the season. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, those guys are going to have problems, he's got especially a broken ankle right now. You got to be careful. You can't let it get away. You can't let the weight get away from you. Does he have enough athletic ability out there? If he plays perfectly, Andrew. Like the one thing I loved about him at right is I thought he had very consistent sets. And when he set well, he rarely got beat. He didn't set as well on the left side, and I thought he got himself into some difficult situations with guys that like to dip and ghost you, guys that like to, come inside and flat on you. I thought he had a little bit more trouble there, but it's not to say he can't do it. I just want to see the same consistency because I didn't see him play left tackle at Ohio State. So, Paris was over there. You want to see a consistent set from right or left tackle, and that kind of gives you a chance to win in the passing game. I also thought he was a little better at right tackle in the run game than I saw on the left side.
Brian Baldinger, the world's most interesting former offensive lineman, live today in the Bark Tank from NFL Films. Follow him at Baldy NFL. Wherever you get your football content. Baldy, I owe you and your mother lunch.
All right, Andrew, we'll take you up on it. You'll be entertained. She knows just as much football as I do. At least she thinks she does.
Send my best, please.
Thanks, Andrew.
He is the greatest. When I say the world's most interesting former offensive lineman, you really do have to check Baldy out. On IG, the guy scuba dives. He's got homes all over the world. There isn't, and I'm a traveler, and I like to go hike and climb mountains. There is not anywhere that Brian Baldinger has not been. And it's more than he's been there. Like, he knows every restaurant owner, bartender. He knows where to go and who to call. Like, if I come up with a vacation idea for the off season, Brian Baldinger has already done it. Like, if I call up Baldy and say, hey, Baldy, I'm thinking of going to the dark side of the moon this year in the offseason. He'll go, oh, yeah, I got a bartender there. You got to call Bobby. Great bar. Great fish tacos. Dark side of the moon. You should do it. He's that guy. Follow Baldy. Baldy NFL. And don't forget, Thursday is a big deal. I know there's a cliche, you throw the records out. Please throw them out and just realize it's the Steelers. It's primetime. It's Thursday night. Be there, be loud. Beat the Steelers. Everything, your food tastes better, your beer tastes better. Beat the Steelers. And that's the goal on Thursday. I said dress warmly. It's going to be cold. It could be raining. It could be ugly. So please plan accordingly. Make some noise. Keep the terrible towels out of Huntington Bank Field. Be there, be loud, and be there early. After the Steelers game, a little bit of a break here. The Browns don't play again. Week 13 is a Monday night. So December 2nd with that game in Denver. Eyes on the prize, though. The prize is Thursday evening, Huntington Bank Field against the Steelers. Thanks for watching and listening and digesting this episode of the Bark Tank presented by Sugardale. We thank each and every one of you. Until next time, I'm Andrew Siciliano. So long, everybody.